Welcome back, Star Wars fans. My name is Daniel, and today we're going to be talking about something that I'm not going to lie, I found kind of weird. Okay, just odd, and it shows how disjointed the the writing for the sequel trilogies was. Now, as I've stated numerous times in the past, I liked the actors. I liked a lot of the cinematic things that happened in the sequel trilogy. I loved that Kylo Ren stopped that laser bolt. That was badass. I'm not even gonna lie. That was pretty awesome. Other things here and there I really liked. However, when it came to Snoke, and this was my biggest thing. Okay, when it came to Snoke, there was no building. There was no character building. There was no introduction. They didn't preface the sequel trilogy with, like, books or comic books or maybe like a little mini series, something to introduce the Snoke character. He just came out of nowhere. Unlike the Emperor, who had been mentioned by the officers on the Death Star. Okay, he was even mentioned by the droids. People knew about the Empire, so it was like a common thing. Okay, there had to be an empire, some kind of a government. The First Order came out of left field. People were expecting remnants of the Galactic Empire. In fact, they got something totally different. And even in Legends continuity, Snoke didn't exist. So not only do you have brand new characters that came out of nowhere, but there was no building up to it. It was just this random dude you see in a projection. No one knows who he is, no one knows why he is, no one knows where he came from, nothing. Then in the second movie, he dies with no further explanation as to who this MFer is, where he came from, how he's associated with anything, because he wasn't around during Revan, he wasn't around during Bane, he wasn't around during Pelagius, he wasn't around during Palpatine. He just kind of appeared. He wasn't mentioned in anything. Even after Disney took over, Snoke was just like this dude. Nothing. And so now it seems like Lucasfilms is backtracking to kind of clarify who Snoke was, when they should have done this to begin with. And throughout this video, I'm going to give my 2 cents on it. So let's get into this craziness here. This is from Screen Rants. Star Wars confirms the sickening implication of Palpatine's Snoke clones. Now, just in that title, I'm already calling poopy stink. Okay? I'm going Now, it's well known and well documented Palpatine made clones of himself. It's well known and well documented you can do force transfer. We've seen it with Bane. We've seen it with Pelagius, or mentioned by Pelagius. I believe it was his master or his master's master tried to do that. So there's a way to kind of transfer your life essence into another being. They can be alive or they can be a clone. Either way, you can do that. So that's done. We see cloning in the Disney Star Wars stuff with, obviously the Clone Wars, with Boba Fett, with the Mandalorian. They keep bringing it up in the Bad Batch. So there's multiple different ways to look at this. But the fact that they're pulling this shit out of left field for no reason, should just irritate any Star Wars fan. And I say any Star Wars fan because we're used to a standard of excellence. Okay? I'm not saying all the movies were planned out to a T. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the originals, and you look at the prequels, and you look at the books and the comic books and all that stuff, it was all congruent upon a central story. It had rules to that story. Some things could be done, some things could not be done. But the fact that Disney took over, threw all that stuff out, and said, we're going to do our version of it, no. It's bullcrap. But let's get into this. Of course, you got Palpatine here, you got Snoke. They don't even look like each other. Just not at all. Now, the biggest twist at the end of Star Wars sequel trilogy was that Palpatine was alive, and he created Snoke clones to do his bidding until he was ready to reveal himself. What? Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with y'all, I never saw Rise of Skywalker. I just didn't. The Force Awakens I thought was good for what it was. The second one, I can't remember its name. It emasculated almost every male character there was. So I wasn't going to watch the third one. I understand that, Carrie Fisher, God bless her soul, had passed away. They had a whole storyline with that. But it's just, y'all, it's just bullshit. Okay, just straight up, no continuity, no story, no nothing. It just ran this gauntlet of stupid to stupider. Now, the article goes on to say Snoke was introduced in The Force Awakens as the shadowy leader of the First Order and the master of Kylo Ren. Even with Snoke's dark story remaining a mystery throughout the first film, Star Wars gave fans zero payoff in the sequel as Snoke was unceremoniously killed and then not even brought up the rest of the movie. In the final installment, however, Rise of Skywalker, it's revealed that Snoke was seemingly nothing more than a synthetic puppet created by Palpatine. I'm going to stop you right there. No. No, for multiple reasons. Number one, you never mentioned Palpatine up until that point. Number two, it was well documented that, yes, Palpatine had clones of himself. But he knew there was a science behind it. He knew he wanted to be in control. And you can't have someone with Palpatine's Force abilities to have multiple clones. Number one, you can't guarantee they're all going to have the Force. Number two, you can't guarantee what they're going to do. As we saw with the Star Wars Force Unleashed with Starkiller. You can't guarantee what's going to happen. And it even said in the game, in Force Unleashed 2, that in the book it actually stated they couldn't know for a fact how the clones were going to behave. If they went to the dark side, they were super homicidal maniacs. Some of them just went into a spiral depression and ended up killing themselves. So, cloning is an art, even in Star Wars. But when you mix the Force into it, unless you have someone who is in absolute control, someone like Palpatine, you mix the Force with clone sickness, you just can't control it. You can't. But let's go on. While this was the first time fans saw Palpatine create Force-sensitive clones, it won't be the last. as one comment goes deeper into that twisted process. Now, again, it's well known Palpatine had clones, okay? Tantus, Mount Tantus, I think I'm remembering the name of that correctly. They had a cloning facility there. Palpatine had basically a second palace. Luke Skywalker's hand was in that cloning facility. The Thrawn trilogy was centered around a cloned Jedi. But even Thrawn said, we cannot trust the clone because of clone sickness. It'll go crazy. But here we go. In Star Wars Darth Vader Volume 11, Darth Vader decides to kill Palpatine and take over as the ruler of the galaxy. Vader unexpectedly arrives on Exegol and attacks Palpatine with a giant tentacle monster. Vader's forced to do his bidding. However, the Emperor is easily killed, or easily kills the space monster, slunks into his fortress. Vader follows, determined to finish him off. As Vader walked through the corridor, he arrived in a chamber full of man-sized vats containing what appears to be clones, either failed or growing. Now, we saw something like that in The Mandalorian Season 2, where they thought that one facility on that one bounty hunter planet, I forget the name of it, and Nefaro, they wanted the Empire gone. Come to find out, it's a cloning facility. Okay, we've seen stuff like that. While all the clones were grotesque, skinless creatures vaguely resembling humans, there was one aspect to them that's more disturbing than their appearance. They're alive and they're in excruciating pain. Now, y'all, again, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to kind of close it out, because this just seems like a lot of copium, okay? Disney does this crap constantly, okay? Constantly. They'll take an aspect of something that makes a lot of money. Whether it's Marvel, whether it's Willow, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's whatever it is, okay? It takes an IP, makes a lot of money. They'll get rid of everything that was good about the IP, mixes a bunch of BS in there. Then, when fans don't like it, they'll backtrack later to go, oh, well, look, we're going to retcon da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. See, it makes sense now. No, it doesn't. That's like having your spouse or significant other cheat on you. Then, after you've done tore them a new butthole, they turn around and go, oh, but look, here's proof I didn't do anything wrong. I walked in on you with another person. You cannot lie to me. But it's weak sauce. It's copium. Yes, Palpatine had clones. That was a fact. Yes, Palpatine came back to life and Luke Skywalker killed a younger version of Palpatine. Yes. But years later, to come out and say, oh, Snoke was Palpatine's puppet, even though Palpatine, no one's mentioned him, no one's talked about him, no one does nothing. It just shows how disjointed Disney Star Wars is. I'm not saying they don't have high points. I'm not saying that they didn't pick good actors and actresses. What I'm saying is that we Star Wars fans are used to a standard of excellence when it comes to storytelling. And Disney has not shown that at all. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do y'all believe this story that somehow Snoke was Palpatine's clone? How did you feel whenever Snoke just was snuffed out? Let me know. My name is Daniel. I am an old Star Wars fan, and I'm going to see y'all on the next one.